Good afternoon. My name is Shauna Nissan. I'm the staff attorney here at CAIR-Chicago, and thank you all for being here today. We are here to discuss a deeply troubling incident of anti-Palestinian discrimination that occurred right here in Chicago at the East Bank Club. This is not an isolated event. It reflects a broader and escalating pattern in which extremist anti-Palestinian hate groups, emboldened by public silence and corporate cowardice, target the jobs, licensures, memberships, and daily routines of people speaking out against the genocide in Gaza. Our client, Sammy, was the subject of one such online attack and has now experienced the discriminatory consequences, all because he wore a Palestinian flag shirt to the gym. I'll invite him up now so he can share what happened in his own words.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm here to speak about the discrimination I have faced because I'm Palestinian. About 6 months ago in February, someone took my picture without consent and demanded that East Bank Club ban me. I became the target of a local hate group for being a Palestinian man wearing a Palestinian gear to the gym. Initially, East Bank Club supported me, affirming that I had not broken any policies and that taking photos of guests were against club rules. However, my image and the club's response quickly circulated on social media, pushed by this hate group and certain individuals. These posts were filled with hateful comments and threats specifically targeting me. Seeing I was not violating club rules and believing the situation had eased, I wore the shirt again a month later. Unfortunately, I was once again singled out by the same hate group who posted about me and renewed their hateful messages. Shortly after, East Bank Club called me into a private hush-hush meeting, asking that I not wear that shirt. When I asked which policy I was violating, what was wrong with my attire, I received no clear answers. When I asked what would happen if I did wear the shirt, they gave no response. Out of concern for my safety due to the threats received online, refrained from wearing the shirt for a period, hoping tensions would calm. As the crisis in Palestine worsens, the haunting reality became impossible to ignore. For anyone with a conscience, especially for Palestinians, the agony of remaining silent in the face of such suffering is unbearable. Every day, Israel bombs, starves, and erases innocent people, including children with hopes and dreams. Their cries echo in the hearts of those who refuse to look away, begging that we act and that we speak, that we do not let them be forgotten. This is why I wear the shirt, as a declaration that humanity cannot turn its back on the genocide unfolding before our eyes. I did it for the children who have lost everything, for the families torn apart, for the dignity of those whose only crime was existing in a place where their lives are deemed expendable. Silence is complicity. To stand up, to be seen, to raise our voices for justice, even when it comes at our personal expense, is the least we owe to those who are suffering unimaginable horrors. And this is my expression of my pride. In July, I wore the shirt again at the gym for about an hour without incident, and I left. A few days later, while I was just relaxing at East Bank at their pool, I decided I was going to leave for about an hour to go for a walk. When I returned from my workout, I was stopped at the entrance. I was told I was not allowed in, and no reasons were given. Subsequently, I received a formal letter banning me from East Bank. My attempts to seek clarification were blocked, my calls went unanswered, and even my number was blocked. I've been treated like a criminal, not for breaking any rules, but for refusing to be silent in the face of hate. East Bank Club's response fueled their hate even further. Links to these hate posts remained on their social media until late July, despite clear violations that this violated their own policies. As far as I know, the individual who took the unauthorized photos is still a member, while I'm banned. This is about more than my membership. It's about standing up for justice, dignity, and the right to raise our voices when innocent lives are at stake. I call on East Bank and our community at large to do better. We need to protect those who are targeted by hate. We need to speak up against injustice, and we need to foster the environment of respect and humanity for all. Thank you.
Photography without permission is strictly prohibited at East Bank Club. Yet Sammy was photographed twice at the club without his knowledge or consent. Those images were shared with a local hate group, resulting in bigoted comments and explicit threats directed at him. Rather than enforcing its own rules or protecting its members, East Bank Club met privately with Sammy and asked him not to wear his shirt again. Months later, when Sammy wore the shirt again, the club banned him without notice. The explanation that followed days later was both pretextual and incoherent. Sammy was targeted because he wore a shirt celebrating his Palestinian heritage. A hate group objected to the shirt because it used the word or included the word resistance. East Bank Club responded not by defending its member or its own policies, but by banning Sammy and terminating his membership. In doing so, the club chose to capitulate to anti-Palestinian bias and hatred rather than uphold its own standards. Terminating Sammy's membership because he proudly expressed his Palestinian identity is discrimination, plain and simple. Under Illinois law, gyms are places of public accommodation and are prohibited from discriminating based on ethnicity or national origin. East Bank Club violated that law, and we intend to hold it accountable. Thank you.
I want to say a few words. I think my colleagues and Sammy very articulately and very clearly expressed what's at stake and what's happening here, but I just want to share a few more words of reflection. First, we're looking at several things happening at once here. We're looking at a business essentially refusing to stand with a member, a consumer of that business, whereas they've done nothing wrong. And they've singled him out because of his national origin and because of a public hate campaign against him. Indeed, as Shauna mentioned, this is a case of corporate cowardice and a dereliction of duty. We're also looking at the sad reality where a notorious hate group that beats its chest publicly and without apology, unapologetically, coming after Palestinians anywhere they exist in any form of public self-identification, whether it's at universities or schools or businesses, online or in gyms, and targeting them. This is a group that supports the genocide. And when Palestinians stand up and say, resist the murder of my people, let's stand up and defend ourselves against mass murder and mass starvation, then this business decides to side with those who are promoting genocide rather than those who are opposing it. We cannot live in an environment in which Palestinians are dehumanized, or anybody is dehumanized at that level and we look away. We cannot live in an environment where those with loud voices and those with the audacity to keep targeting vulnerable communities with these hateful messages, to deny them the right of existence, the right of participation, the right of membership, the right of education, the right of employment. That is an extension of what the genocide is. It's erasure through dehumanization. And we're seeing it happen right here in America, and people of good faith and conscience, Muslims, Christians, Jews, otherwise, stand together against this sordid behavior that is the reason why the genocide has been happening for 2 years. And so in conclusion, we stand with Sammy, not just for his legal rights, which clearly have been violated, but for his basic human rights, which all people of any sense of morality must and do acknowledge. And we stand against the wizards and witches of hate in this country that are promoting gleefully hatred against Palestinians to deny them their rights in this country as they do abroad. Every human being has a right to resist their own murder, to resist their own starvation, to resist their own annihilation. I cannot stand here and attempt to sock you in the face and tell you I have a right to do so, and if you dare flinch, I say, because that's a form of resistance, you don't have the right to flinch. You don't have the right to cover your face. You don't have the right to hit back. You have every right to defend yourself against attacks and threats. You have every right to resist your own annihilation and to want to continue to exist. And that's the only message that this Palestinian man had on his shirt. And it's a message that no business and no group should have any problem with unless they're anti-Palestinian and don't believe that Palestinians have the same human rights as everybody else. With that, we conclude our press conference and we open it up to any questions.
I honestly just am kind of surprised about the conditions of the social situation on Palestine. Just for my audience, which is pretty international, maybe for ABC, are these types of attacks occurring more frequently? Is this one of the bigger parts of the kind of work that you guys are dealing with right now?
As mentioned in the introduction, they're occurring frequently because there are dedicated organizations that are newly created since October 7th that have made it their cause to come after Palestinians anywhere they self-identify as Palestinians publicly in any form. Dare they stand up against the genocide? Dare they push back against the far-right, violent, murderous Israeli government that is causing this genocide, which they support? So they're an extension of this genocide. They publicly support the genocide and push back against Palestinians who dare have a problem with it. We're seeing educators be targeted by their schools. We're seeing, whether it's schools or universities, we're seeing students. We're seeing employees of various corporations and businesses. We're seeing lawyers at law firms. We're seeing doctors at hospitals. We're seeing politicians who are doxxed and attacked for standing up with Palestinian human rights. So it's all across the board, and it's plentiful, it's numerous, and this is just one of the many cases we're looking at.
Do we know the names of any of the organizations, or is it some of the behavior more informal than that, or unstructured maybe?
I mean, you know, one of the organizations is called the Chicago Jewish Alliance. We're not interested in naming organizations to not give them oxygen, but these organizations are out there doing their terrible work for all to see, and they've been behind many of those cases. But there are others as well, locally, nationally, and globally. As a matter of fact, even these cases you may have heard of, like Mahmoud Khalil being targeted, someone who stood side by side with Jewish activists standing up against the genocide, calling for peace, calling for a resolution of the conflict, calling for justice for his people. He was targeted, including by the President of the United States, not because he was some kind of notorious individual known to everybody, but because his name was forwarded by a far-right Zionist pro-genocide organization straight to the US government. And that's an organization, by the way, that's registered outside of the United States and functions mostly outside of the United States, and that is Batar. And so that's been the claim by many of the media venues. And so we're seeing local and international organizations, attempt to target and dehumanize and silence Palestinian voices here in America and abroad.
Oh, question about Sammy. How long were you a member for East Bank Club?
A little bit over 2 years. As soon as I moved into the city, they were the gym I chose to attend, and I was, for me, I thought a good member up until I was dismissed.
I'm not sure if you or anybody will care to read the comments that are pictured here.
Over here.
I mean, I will say my time at East Bank, there were times I did look over my shoulder, worried after those. I mean, being told that, someone should drop a dumbbell on my head while I'm working out. Things about, going back to Gaza and getting bombed, shot at by snipers, starved to death, displaced, had my family lost. My kids see this stuff. And they shouldn't have to be ashamed for who they are either. Sorry.
As you can see, this has a real effect on people's everyday lives. This is not someone who is out there, an activist fighting. He's somebody going to work out. These are people who are going to their local grocery shops, people going to their schools. and their lives are upended because they dared identify as Palestinian and stand against the annihilation of their own people. As simple as that, they were targeted. Public comments, you can see them for yourself. They're all over the internet. All right, thank you all very much. Have a pleasant day.